Hello, I'm your host, Isaac Mack. Welcome to the MCC podcast. Joining us today is Mr. Kareem Odish. Kareem has been a long member of the Chaldean community, serving over 40 years as a Sub Deacon, or as we call him, Shamasha. And he's done that for various churches. Kareem is also a chartered engineer and a builder. He runs a successful engineering and construction company called Zeta Engineering. He epitomizes the phrase hardworking immigrant, and he's here to share with us his story. And I really believe that a lot of the youth today will get a lot of benefit out of it. Kareem, welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So how's 2020 been for you, sir? I have friends and even some family who are in the construction and engineering industry, and they're saying they haven't been as busy as they've been now. So has it been pretty busy for you?
So we have, as Zeta, we have two arms, the engineering, we do design, and then we have the construction. So with the two, both wings, engineering and construction, we are okay. Given the nature of the construction jobs, they usually take long to build up, to get into a job. So it takes like a long time to communicate with the client, to go through the design and planning stage till we get to the stage where we sign a construction contract. So yeah, it hasn't slightly affected, but not that significant. Still, we are okay.
Okay. I see you have some sporting teams behind you there. Who you supporting?
Man United.
Oh, okay. So
That's the thing behind me. I went with my wife and daughters to Europe 2017.
Okay.
So my daughters had me tickets for the Man United and Chelsea game in Old Trafford.
Oh, wow.
So I went with my youngest daughter, and fortunately we beat Chelsea 2-0 at the time.
That's good.
Yeah.
My father loves Manchester United, and my younger brother loves Chelsea. So
I have them both.
yeah. Was that like a dream come true, seeing it at Old Trafford?
Yeah, we were staying in London, so it was a full day trip. We had to catch a train from London to Manchester. It was a rainy day. It was very interesting.
And what do you think of Manchester United now?
Well, they are building a good team. I think with the new, most recent signing, they would have, the team will be able, hopefully, to challenge for the Premier League title.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Ferguson did an amazing job. It's very hard to replicate what he did, and but I think that what you said there, they have to rebuild it from just like he did.
Yeah, I think the current coach or the manager, he has the character to motivate players. He stands by his players, and that's a good thing. These people, they need somebody to stand by them, try to explore their talents and bring the hidden thing, give them the opportunities. And I think he's doing very well.
Yeah, that's good. So I had a look at Zeta Engineering website, and I couldn't help noticing you're designing St. Joseph's Chaldean Church in Sydney.
So the concept design, the church looks like, if you have like what you call the top view, if you are looking from the sky, you will see like a cross shape with the long arm, facing east. You know, our church, our tradition, is that people will be facing east. So that's the way it's been set. But then the detailed design, it was done by another consultancy.
Yeah.
But I helped through the planning and the design stages, detailed design. And I'm fortunate and honored to be looking after the construction management of the job.
I was going to ask you, how does it feel to be involved in a project that's probably, very dear to your heart? It must feel like an honor.
Yeah, I always wanted to leave a legacy behind me. Like, it's not just like we work hard. You need to do something. So like coming generation, you will have a name somewhere.
Yeah.
And the church is part of, like not only me, most of our community Chaldeans. church is like a mother, and
Yeah.
wherever we go, we stick by the church.
Agree.
And I thought it will be a great honor and pleasure to do something for the church.
God bless you.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about your history. How old were you when you left Iraq?
We left Iraq in February 95, and I was born on the 22nd of November 58, and I was named Kareem after the very famous, the first Prime Minister, Kareem Qasim.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he was very popular at the time. So I laid that, he called me Kareem, and like after that, the first Prime Minister. So I was answering your question, I was, let's say, 37 or around 36, 37 when we left Iraq.
No, right. Yeah. That's an age a lot of my, I think my father, when he came to Australia, he was a similar age. A lot of my uncles came when they were around the mid-90s as well. What was life for you? I asked this for a lot of our guests, but what was life? I'm always interested to know because everyone has different answers. So what was life like for you in Iraq, from, I suppose, growing up there to when you left? When you left, obviously the Gulf War happened. It had completely changed, but what was life generally like before that?
So I used to work in Beji in oil refinery, and then in the urea factory, fertilizer, which is a chemical plant. Till 92, where I resigned. That was when, as part of the United Nations helping Iraqi people, that was one of the conditions that there was what you call a resolution. If you were to leave, if you are a governmental employee, then if you leave your job, you will be jailed for 10 years. So that thing was removed in 92. So another 3 engineers and myself, so 4 engineers, the first week we resigned. So I then moved back to Baghdad, to Dora. I lived with my wife and 2 little daughters with my family. My dad and mother, they were living in ground floor, and we were living in the first floor in Dora, which is mainly a Christian-dominated suburb.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
Yeah.
And so you came to Australia in 95. Did you get straight into engineering, or what did you do?
So when we left by formally through through Jordan, where I stayed there, and then I applied. Initially, we wanted to come to Australia, but I didn't have a first family member that could sponsor me. So we had a distant relative or a friend. They put in a sort of an application to sponsor, but that would have taken long. So we went first to New Zealand. At the time, 95, New Zealand, they had this, still this, in Australia and New Zealand, this skilled immigration category where you score a certain points, then you will qualify. So I went through that, being an engineer with the experience and age factor. They worked for our favor. So it didn't take long. In fact, it took less than 4 months to have the application approved and the passport stamped. Yeah. So we went to New Zealand, and then we came to Australia.
Oh, very good. And you've been, I read on your profile, you've been a deacon or serving the church for almost 45 years, yes?
Yeah, so in 1976, I was in my first year in the Baghdad University, studying engineering.
Yes.
Then I was ordained Sub Deacon or Diakna by the late Marpolis Sheikh.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time ago. And since I've been serving, wherever I went, I have to stick by the church. That was part of our life. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do that? Like, why did you want to be a Sub Deacon?
So when originally we lived in Kirkuk, where my late father used to work. And then when he retired, we moved to Baghdad. And in Dora, I was I was still in the high school. So I used to like to go to church every day. And then step by step, gradually, as most of the young people at the time, we started attending the evening prayers or Salat al-Dramsha. And then when I got into that thing.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. So you've done that in Iraq, maybe New Zealand, no?
New Zealand, that was another story. So
Cool.
church-wise, New Zealand, when we went, we were very few families, Chaldean families.
Yeah.
We didn't have a church. We didn't have a priest. So, and the group we went, we were most of them qualified people. And they were people who are around the church. So we tried to establish something for our community. So the Kiwis or the New Zealanders, they are very, very, very nice people if you have communicated with them, or
I have, yes.
New Zealanders.
Yeah.
And so one of the parish priests, local parish priest, Father Lyon, who passed away a few years ago, sadly, he gave us the opportunity he was celebrating a mass, which was a blend of Chaldean rite and Roman Catholic. So, for example, we would pray out Washmeya La Khumaran Qadisha Laha.
Yeah.
And he will, of course, as a priest, he will do the mass, but he will let us, like he gave us the opportunity to contribute into the mass. And every now and then, either at the time Father Zuhair or Father Denhau passed away a couple of years ago, they will visit us every now and then. And yeah, so that was the church part in New Zealand.
Yeah, nice. So tell us about your family. So you have 2 daughters?
I have 3 daughters.
3?
Yeah, 2 of them, they were born in Iraq.
Okay.
They are both married. They are both pharmacists. They graduated from Sydney Uni.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and the youngest is close to you. She's studying in Gold Coast.
All right.
She's studying in Bond University.
Yes.
Medicine. This year is her 2nd year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that was. She was born in New Zealand, in Auckland.
All right. She's a Kiwi.
Yeah.
Any grandkids yet?
Hopefully next year, early next year. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And I was going to ask you who's your favorite, but I won't ask that. No, I'm just joking. I said I was going to ask you who's your favorite, but we won't answer that.
Okay, they are all favorite.
And you also play music?
I do play music. Like since when I was a boy, I used to play, what do you call it, the flute or nai. Because that was we used to make it out of, what do you call it, gasab, or like sugar cane thing.
Yes. That
was very cheap, handy. You can do it. So that's where I used to play. And I didn't go to any music school. And then when we came to Australia 10 years ago, I bought a oud.
All right.
So I tried. I'm learning. I'm still a learner, but I'm much better now than when I started. So I used to go online on YouTube and read books and types of maqamat and rhythms, and yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So tell me, like in 2012, I'm really interested to know how you actually made this decision. You came up against a challenge where I think you lost your job. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, and you had to make a difficult decision. Can you take us through what happened?
Okay, so when I left Iraq, first went to New Zealand. So the qualification was recognized, but then I had to get another degree from the country, so that then it will be more recognized. So I did my master's in civil engineering, and I had my honors degree in petroleum.
Okay.
So when we came here to Australia, I was working in various jobs, different companies. The last job I was in charge of the projects department in the company. We used to manufacture and sell water systems, treated systems for commercial applications for city councils and that kind of stuff. So I was looking after a team of engineers who they were project managers.
Okay.
And the company were at a stage they had to let one go, either the general manager or myself as a project manager.
Mm.
At the time, I was doing most of the company things, budgeting, project communications with clients, commercial management.
Mm.
So the boss or the company owner, they said, we have to choose either you to go or the general manager. Now, the general manager was with the company from day one. And had they let him go, he said the company will go bankruptcy because they have to pay him a lot of shake hands. While with me, I was only 3 years with the company.
Yeah.
So I said, look, we have to make this decision. And I understood it. So I lost my job. And it wasn't easy, given the age. And it's not that easy to go back to full employment. What I have done, Zahi, in 2010, I established Zeta Engineering.
Sorry?
My company.
Zeta Engineering, yes.
So I established Zeta while I was still a full-time employee.
So you already had the idea?
Yeah, I was doing, I do hydraulic design.
Okay.
I do whatever is related to water, H2O. So it was 2 years of Zeta running.
Okay.
I was doing here and there jobs. So then I decided, no, let me just go full-time with Zeta and run with Zeta. And then 2013, I did my diploma in construction from TAFE here, New South Wales. And then I had my builder's license. So I added that construction arm into Zeta, and I never regretted it. I should have done that maybe that years before.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I'm fascinated to ask you about this, what happened there, because, in our culture, and I think the way we are brought up, everyone, you must get a degree, you stay at a job, and this mentality. There's very few people that break away from that, I suppose, system and go into their own business, and build businesses and that. And I can understand how difficult that would have been for you to have, that sort of, if you don't mind me saying, the mentality of working for a company for a long time and then doing your own business.
It's not an easy thing. It goes like sine wave, up and down. So one day you will feel very relaxed, another day you will be very down. So it takes a bit of patience, commitment. You have to be determined, you have to be strong, mentally strong.
Yes.
Psychologically strong. It's not easy, especially when you provide for your family. And that's the hard part. So I think I didn't choose to lose my job, but I lost my job, but then I did good not to go back again and look for employment.
Correct. Yeah, I've been involved with different companies when I worked where, I was made redundant. I've been through those situations. I've been in companies where they collapsed. I was working for a company that was Singapore based in early 2000s, and because of the SARS virus, the company collapsed, because they were based there. So I know what it's like to be in those situations where everything's going good, you're in a good position, and then it's gone.
When you are highly paid, like any business, when any business starts struggling, they try to cut costs and they go to employment to the staff. They cut staff.
Yeah.
Make the remaining do whatever the people who were sacked to do their job. So yeah.
It's happened to a lot of people this year, and I think what's happened as well is there's been a lot of people who are take take away all the negative things that have happened in 2020. There's been a lot of people who have been inspired to, create their own businesses and even connect with God more. There's been a lot of good, I think, awakenings happened this year, which is why I'm interested, even more interested to talk to you about, what you went through there.
Yeah, this is what I would say. It wasn't always like up and down, but what helped me is the faith. Like when you are a believer that God does always good things for us, and sometimes He would have plans, which at the moment, we wouldn't know why this thing happened, but down the track, He will see that that was for a good reason. And even now, when I spend time like building a leading or to a job, and before I sign a contract, I always pray. I say, "My Lord, if this job will weaken my faith, please don't make it happen."
Beautiful.
Look for if it's good for my faith, for your name, for my family, and then please, make it happen. And the faith helps a lot in this kind of situations.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think a vision helps as well. I always believe God gives us, a vision in life to do certain things, and sometimes we ignore it because we let logic control our mind, we let society control our mind. But it sounds to me like you already had a vision of doing your own business because you were doing that prior to being, let go from that job. So that to me sounds like that was just the push you needed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, like when we drive with my wife, for example, sitting next to me in the passenger seat, I go past any factory, or I said, look, I want to do a factory or have something to produce products that you could see your products. I always have visions, and I'm very ambitious. And this is probably puts you a bit under stress, because you will never say, look, I'm convinced, I draw a line and I'm done. Makes you always look forward for new things, new challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing. I don't believe we were created in a way to just be, content with life. I think.
Correct. Yeah.
I think if we stop growing, there's no point.
Absolutely. That's actually, if you don't grow, then you would feel that you have like you are doing nothing, and that you'll have no value. Like, sorry for the word, but that's the worst feeling when like anyone gets into that point.
Absolutely. Also want to ask you something. You said it's not easy. Sometimes it can be very difficult when especially in the building process in the first probably 2 years. Is that the most difficult part, do you think, of building a business?
Yeah, well, so like with the big companies, they would have the monopoly and they are unknown. But for us, like I'm a small company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So recently, most of the work comes as word of mouth. I've been advertising recently. Although I have my website, sometimes I put on the Facebook some live streaming videos, just as educational, informative things for people, like different type of concrete slabs and whatever, whatnot. Sorry, but to start with, it took me. I did big investment in marketing, sales. Till I was then at the stage I didn't need that.
Okay.
This is why, like for example, first 3-4 years, most of my clients were not from our community. Like they were Aussies from different backgrounds, Italian, Filipino, or just common Aussies or Kiwis. But last 3 years or so, or 4 years, most of my clients are from our community, Chaldeans or
Mm.
Assyrian, and that comes from word of mouth.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Including the church.
Yeah, absolutely.
uh, so how is Mr. Kareem different today than the person you were in 2012 when you first started the business?
Well, good question.
Thank you.
A good question from a good man.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Uh, I feel that I have done a good portion of the job. Like it's not a job done yet, but
Okay.
now I've went past the critical component of thing. I'm more stable now, even psychologically, mentally more stable. I went past that risk. First, my two daughters, they graduated. They are married now. So I have only one daughter left as a student relying on me. So my wife also, she works as a governmental employee.
All right.
Yeah, so that gives me financially, we are much, much better than in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are financially stable, that alleviates the, like, what do you call it, the stress and yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? How do you think you've grown as a person then, since you've had this the business? What is
More patient, more,
sorry?
more patient
More patience. Okay, good.
and wiser. And I think that's probably not only the business, the age. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what advice or what could you give someone? What kind of advice or tips can you give someone who's thinking of starting their business now or has just started their business? Be that whatever industry they're in.
I've seen it. The communication is the very important part of any business, especially when you go and see clients.
Okay.
So that chemistry from the first meeting is very important. And listening to the client. And it's the same thing I used to tell my daughters or friends when you reply to what do you call a job. We are applying for a job. Always read what's in what the potential employer is looking for. That's where they put their requirements. So that's part of listening, understanding the client.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And if they're afraid of starting their own business, what would you say to them?
Yeah, well, jumping into a business straight away, like first thing is that, like any person to start a business, he has to be able to master that business or whatever is that. For example, if you are a designer or engineer, you need to be very strong, very good designer. If you are a carpenter, you want to start a business as a carpentry, then you have to be a good carpenter to master. Similarly with any other jobs, like plus you will need what they call the client base. You like we all need clients. Like no matter how good we are, if we don't have clients, then business means nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's the client, how to have a good base of client, how to reach the client, then how to sell your services, make those services being understood and seen by the clients or potential clients.
What do you think you would do that separates you from other businesses, like for example, who are in your industry for the clients? Because I read on their website, when I was reading your website, I could gauge that you had a very strong customer focus. You know, a lot of engineering and construction websites, because I have somewhat an engineering background. I studied structural, and I'm familiar with a lot of engineering companies and construction companies. they're always selling their service on the website. You know, we are the best because of this, which is, whereas the difference I found with your website was you had a much more customer focus.
Correct.
Mm.
I
You
think
that's the
that's,
difference.
I think that we do very well in that aspect. Uh, One of the things, and I never say no, because even on daily life things, the word no is very hard to the ears. Even when you go to a shop, can I get that? If they say no, like the impact is no good. Imagine how impact that will have on a client.
Yeah.
And so it's absorbing clients' needs, understanding them, never say no. Say yes, but then we can do that. But this is give them the downside or of saying yes, and then make them understand that this is not doable before even you say no.
Mm.
Make them get to that conclusion instead of saying, no, I can't do that.
So it goes back to what you were saying before about communication, just being very open with them.
Yeah, but not sharp. Like you can say no. For example, if you come to me and say, look, can I build a granny flat on my back of my house?
So something very popular in Sydney.
Very popular. If I say no, I lost you as a customer.
Yeah.
And as a person, on a personal human level, I don't think that you will call me again or at all, because I'm
Yeah.
just closing the door.
Yeah, agree. And I think the biggest thing in building, especially take engineering aside, but for building industry, the biggest thing is people is trust and follow through. Because I lived in the Gold Coast for a few years with my wife, and a friend of mine was working in construction, and he was busy all the time. I said I didn't know what he was doing, but I asked him one day. I said, "So what do you actually do? Is it your?" He goes, "Oh, I go around. I'm flat out." I go, "What do you do?" He says, "Well, I go pick up jobs where the builders has left."
Ah,
And I went,
okay.
and I said, "That's what you do?" He said, "Mate, I'm flat out. I've non-stop people calling me. The builders walked away and from their job, and I go and fix it all up." I was like, "Wow, that's." So
Yes,
there's
something
a
happens sometimes. We we look for less cost, like I wouldn't say cheaper, but that costs you less. So I've seen it. I price a job, and I know the job is not straightforward. It's very complicated job.
yeah
See other builders, they price it like 75 less, like 75 of your price, and I know they can't deliver. But then the customer, they can't see that. I could see it happening,
yeah
and that where uh, the builder will get themselves into trouble, because that will be for them uncharted territory.
yeah
And the client doesn't know. They yeah.
yeah right. So what about your habits? I love what you said about how you pray before every decision that you make. You know, you involve God in those decisions, which is, fantastic. Could you, is there any particular habits that you have, or any habits that you could recommend to people, or attitudes to, to be successful at what you do?
Yeah, with this, yeah, I think determination. Like once you have a clear vision, you need, then you have to be determined and
Mm.
never give up easily. Because we as a human being, we have different views on different topics, and doesn't matter, like, doesn't mean that we all would agree on a thing. And if I have a vision, something I want to do, I would, like after I understand it fully and I see this is, I can do it, I wouldn't stop till I accomplish that thing.
Mm.
And then working hard, things are never easy.
Mm.
It's the nature of the life. It's getting more competitive, and yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Um, what kind of, you spoke before about legacy. What kind of legacy do you want to leave for the next generation?
Okay, so one was the thing like we spoke about before, the church.
Church? Yes, that's
Second,
a beautiful legacy.
yeah, the second thing is that I know our Lebanese friends, they have a lot of David Psalms, they have uh, with them like songs, like the Arhamni Ya Allah,
Oh yeah.
like that. And maybe in another couple of years, I would be in a better situation where I could compose some themes for some of the Psalms and I want to record them. Uh, and one more thing is that, you know, in our Chaldean rites, we have two types of masses. One is the Raza Rabba, the big mass.
Yes.
And there's the other one. The big one is celebrated by a bishop or a priest, and then a group of sub deacons and deacons. While there's the normal mass will be celebrated by a bishop or a priest with one deacon or sub deacon. And the second type of mass, they come with different themes, maqamat, and these are known in the church. And there are a lot of church songs. They would represent one of the maqamat. I wanted to do that as educational thing for the new priests and deacons, sub-deacons, record them with oud and mentioning which maqam is that, how do you sing it, what differences. Yeah, that was something I'm still thinking to do it, and I hope I will do it.
I'll nominate myself to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you like?
No,
So
not musically, just to help maybe facilitate something online that we could do a big thing where we have, yeah,
fantastic, really great.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really great. And one of our friends, deacons in the church here in Sydney, he just had a YouTube channel. He records the daily prayer themes for
yes,
whole calendar year,
yes,
ritual year. That's fantastic. We have priests, deacons, even bishops from our community, a Chaldean community from all globe and from Iraq are participating. It's really good. So, yeah.
yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that was my vision when I started this podcast, was just to be able to, you know, expose the gifted people that we have within our community, and show that what we are about.
Yeah.
Um,
If you don't mind, maybe I can put this like the friend in touch with you, just in case, because I could see that you have a lot of talents and like especially in the presentations online and stuff broadcasting. Maybe you would guide him or give them a good hand.
I'd
Okay.
love to. I'm still fairly new myself, but I'd love to help. um, I wanted to ask you something as well. Uh, you know, you've done tremendously well with your life in terms of, I think, as a family man, as a church man, as a businessman. Uh, Obviously, you know, God is a big part of your life, and there's no doubt that's why, the main reason you are, you know, where you are today. But did you meet people along the way, or did you ever have someone who inspired you, uh, who who you saw who was successful, and you said, you know what, I want to be like this person? Or did you meet people along the way of life?
That's yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, Back in Iraq, since high school, you know how we have long summer school holiday.
Yeah.
So, for example, from year 9, all school summer holidays, I never had a school summer holiday without working. In different jobs, like I worked in like windows factories, welding, cutting, grinding, and refurbishment of the power plant in Dora. Uh,
So even when you were 14, 15?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that was a good question. When we are young, at 14, 15, even we worked in as a group of friends helping, shopkeepers when they go on owners when they go and buy rock melons, trucks full of truck.
Yeah.
They would need young people to unload or offload the thing for them.
You did that as well?
Yeah. We are, year 9, year 10. And then one of the years, I worked with a contractor who was a good friend of my brother-in-law, my oldest sister husband. He was also an engineer. And that guy was a good friend. They were doing the sewer line in Al-Kakh. It was going along Saidiya and that part of Baghdad.
Okay.
And then I worked one of these summer school holidays with him in that project. And I saw him, like the way he was running things. He inspired me. I wish I'd be like this guy. Like, yeah.
And when you came to Australia, was there people there that you worked with that you gained a lot of knowledge and wisdom from?
Yeah, one of the jobs I did, I worked as a design manager for a consultancy in Sydney around 2005, 6, 7. It was we had 2 divisions in that consultancy. One was design, and then the other was planning. So I was the design manager, head of that department, and we had the other part of the planning. Now, the boss was Jew. He was born in Palestine. He's Arabic, of course.
Jewish, born in Palestine?
Yeah, he was Jew.
Okay.
Yeah. And he speaks Arabic because he lived and he was educated in Israel.
Oh, okay.
And then he migrated to Australia, and he was also an engineer. So he was my direct boss. He was the managing director. So as consultants, any consultant will do a lot of reporting, technical notes, design. So for example, one of the projects, it was the Griffith sewage treatment plant.
Okay.
We did that job, and I personally did the design of it. And when preparing a report, I would do the report, email it to the boss before we issue it. Of course, you are familiar with that.
Yes.
Like senior person or the boss has to review and approve.
Yes.
Then he will come. My office was next to his office. He will come to me and say, "Kareem, come." I'll sit next to him. He will flip the monitor, and he will go through my report, and he will start editing. Once this editing is finished, he'll say me, "Look at your report, look at this report." Technically, it was the same content, but the way he presented the report to the recipient, whoever was going to read that report, was totally different. I learned a lot from him in terms of the way you present your thoughts into a report. How do you make people understand what you wanted to say? The second thing I learned from him, presentations. I used to do a lot of presentations to Sydney Youre here in Sydney, councils, engineers and officers. So I learned a lot how to prepare presentations, how to manage the presentation, the audience. So that was one of the people I learned a lot from.
Fantastic. Yeah. It goes back to what you said with communication. Communication is huge. I have a sales and marketing background, and a lot of times, you have to condense what you're saying.
Absolutely.
You want to say this much, but you have to just condense in a way that it just makes sense for people, because people have a short attention span, especially these days, especially the youth.
You see it nowadays when you are talking to somebody, like you would see their eyes moving as if they just want you to finish so they can, so they don't listen the whole thing, what you wanted to say. And people are just the life.
Distracted.
Yeah.
I'd love to know about before, because we'll wrap up soon. But you did talk a little bit about your parents. So they stayed in Iraq, yes, after you left.
Yeah.
Um, for the youth that you are seeing, obviously you're involved in the church and you meet a lot of the youth of today, and also, you've got kids as well. What lessons did you get from your parents that you feel are very necessary for the kids of today to really have in their lives?
Yeah, well, yeah, my late dad, he would use to take me in the morning of Easter, big mass. You know how back in Iraq we would start the ritual prayers,
Mm.
3 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yes.
At the time, like we didn't have a car, so, and there were no buses at that early time of the day. So we would go walking. My dad would take me with him. And so, excuse me, can I have this water?
I'll drink with you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So, yeah. And then my mother was like, she would never stop praying like most of our mothers.
Yes.
So I could say that when people grow up in a family where the parents are around the church, kids will stick around the church.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it. And then the kids would, apparently, when they grow up, they will bring that into their children as well, the kids. So
Yeah.
that line of sticking with the church and faith will remain with that family.
Absolutely. I mean, I was very blessed when I was a little boy. I had my grandfather, who was my father's father, with me, and you're talking about a man that went through world wars. That started working when he was 7 years old, and he was giving me lessons of life when I was 4 years old, and he was telling me, it won't make sense to you now, but you'll remember this when you're older, and this will help you.
You'll remember it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he taught me things about faith, and a lot of it has come from my father as well. Obviously he passed that to my father as well. But one thing I noticed in terms of his generation, and even my father's generation, is there's a lot more strength. There's a lot more heart to it. They don't worry about all the distractions of life. They just focus on living in the moment, being with their family, doing right by their family, doing right by God, working hard, and never. I remember when I was a kid, my father was doing his PhD and also working at nighttime, till 3 a.m, just to make sure that, we get by. And I remember I just thought that was normal because I was only 10 years old, But then I remember one time I asked him, I said to him, Dad, do you get tired? And he said to me, he said, Ab, you don't, if you're a grown man, you don't use the word tired. And I was like, wow. So it's a different mindset, I think, that generation. Yeah. Sorry, that's just my story.
You're a lucky person to have such a great dad.
Yeah, I'm very, very blessed. Very blessed. Yeah, and I hope, especially with the youth that are listening to you and, people even of my father's and grandfather's generation, that they take that with them, because I think people are getting too self-absorbed. They're worried about themselves way too much instead of giving to others and living a life for others. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll wrap it up. I have one last question for you, if I may.
Yeah, and then I have one stuff just to mention before we wrap up after your question.
Oh, okay. Please, yeah. Well, and I like to ask this question to everyone, if you've watched any of the podcast, everyone who's on the show. So, knowing what you know about life today, if you could go back in time, in a time machine, whatever you want to call it, and go meet your 18-year-old self of you, what advice would you have for 18-year-old Kareem?
How much time we have left?
Well, it's a podcast. We can go for 3 hours.
Tell you something. When I finished my baccalaureate at 6, like South Sydney,
yeah.
I could go to Baghdad University, study engineering, or I could go study medicine in Mosul University. I wouldn't be accepted in Baghdad University. I scored then at the time 75, I had 85.
Oh, so yeah.
It was good to get me to engineering, but not to medicine.
Okay.
I was divided, I didn't know. So I filled all the application form. I left the first two options blank. I didn't know what to, I didn't have a desire to be an engineer, honestly, at the time.
Really?
And then my sister, elder than me, she was studying, she was in year 2 studying medicine in Baghdad University.
Okay.
So I asked her before I went to bed, I said, what do you think? She said, look, engineering for boys probably is better. It's only 4 years. And medicine was 6 years. And then you have to do countryside, rural things.
Yes.
I said, okay, fair enough. Then I picked engineering and I became an engineer.
Yeah.
I graduated in 1980. A few months, then the war broke with Iran.
Yes.
Those years, I spent them in the army. I could have been like studying medicine 6 years. Do you see? So, like, I didn't know what to do at the time. Like, if I go back now, I would definitely become a doctor.
Really?
I just studied medicine. And yeah, and for the young people like 18, look, I don't know, sometimes we, old people, we would look weird to the like younger generations, but look in the future. If you study something, what would you achieve? How would you be financially? Because financial things is a good foundation for the family. If you are in financial hardship, that will reflect in your relationship with your spouse, with your kids. So
100%.
this is what I used to tell my daughters. Why would you work for 15 hours, $15 an hour? Why won't you work for $150 an hour?
Correct.
So yeah, listen to your parents, because they would love you to get the good things for your future.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what you would tell your 18-year-old self.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point you bring up. It's putting value on your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's very good. So the floor is yours. What would you like to share with everybody?
Okay. Look, be committed. Have a vision. Be determined. Don't give up easily. Keep your faith. Faith is something good. It's not something now. The culture nowadays, people feel embarrassed when they say we're religious. No, we shouldn't feel embarrassed. Be proud of that. And if you just allow me one last thing, because of my experience in the engineering and companies,
please
feel free to give my email address to any person who wants to help with job applications, writing up resumes. I am happy to review that for them. And also for our Chaldean community, if they want to buy a house, I usually do that. I don't charge people. It's just for the love of the friends and the community. If they want to buy a land, or they want somebody to review the contract or check the land for them, I'm happy to be doing that for free.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Oh, that's so that's beautiful of you to do that. Look, we'll share your email address underneath the this video. More than happy to do that. That's so very generous of you, sir. Thank you. Any last thoughts before we let you go?
God bless you. Thank you for having me. Wait every single minute of this conversation. I didn't feel the time.
Well, that's good. I always tell people it's a quick 45 minutes.
God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
See ya.